Hi guys, this is another episode of the SudsPod. It's going to be in video form. Um, I am shooting it on my GoPro Hero 9. I just recently bought it Black Friday. So yeah, we're coming at you with another episode of the SudsPod. And in this podcast, we talk about from anything from Boston sports to lifestyle. At some point, I'm going to have some listener questions. Whoever's watching this, or whoever watches or listens to this, we're going to get some questions about myself and what I've been up to since high school graduation. So now let's get straight to the point. It is January 17th, 2020. The big news, or a couple big news from this week, is obviously the James Harden trade. That trade was absolutely insane. It was basically a four-way trade between Brooklyn, Houston, Indiana, and Cleveland. And I'll explain the pieces and what it means for pretty much each team coming up. But I wanted to react to it with me reacting to James Harden's first game with Brooklyn. Now, he put up 32, 14 rebounds, and 12 assists. That is an absolutely crazy stat line. Now, he played with Durant back in 2009 through 2012. He made it to the finals in 12 when they played the Heat, and he was basically the sixth man of that team. He came off the bench. It was basically their big three was Durant, Harden, Westbrook, and Ibaka. Steven Adams was, I believe, a rookie, so he wasn't a big part of it yet, but James Harden was looking for a bigger contract that OKC is just not going to pay in 2012. So they shipped him off to Houston, where he basically was a one-man show, did it all. They built an offense around him, and yeah, he basically averaged 27 points per game in the 7 years that he was with Houston. And now he is, I believe, 31 years old. And the last few weeks, he basically got fat, didn't show up to work on time, which is inexcusable, because he wanted to get traded. And that's understandable, but you got to be professional about it and then set a good example, because that's what these NBA players are. They need to be set. They need to set an example for the youth. And I truly believe that they're so powerful that I think society's screwed, but whatever. That's for another day. But yeah, so he put up great numbers with Kevin Durant. Now, Kyrie Irving is another story. He basically took a leave of absence without telling anybody. And he hasn't shown up to camp yet. So he is out for personal reasons, and he has to clear COVID protocol for the league, and he's going to be fined. So yeah, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving, what do I have to say about him? So he was a space cadet in Boston, and he's just out there. He's just another dookie, and he thinks he's smarter than the rest of the world, doesn't need to. He lives by his own rules, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, I have some notes here that I put together for him. He didn't. So my big issue is to the common day, to the common worker, you have to, if you're ever taking personal leave, you have to let your managers know. And he basically just disregarded the simple professionalism that needs to be done by a professional, especially an NBA player, in which he lets other people know why he's, or at least return the calls by your coach, by your GM, by your teammates, because in that 7 to 10 day hiatus that he had, he didn't return anyone's calls, didn't let anyone know where he was. And later it came out that he was on a Zoom call for the Manhattan District Attorney, talking about social justice issues. He ended up buying a house for one of the families, for the man who got shot over the summer, which is good. And he went out for his dad's birthday, I believe. His sister turned 30, and he basically disregarded COVID and went out to a club in, looks like New York, and didn't have a mask. So he got fined $50,000 for that, which is nothing for him. He makes $410,000 a game, so whatever, that's just chump change for him. Hopefully that goes to good people, and the league does something with that money. And we all deal with issues, but we still go to work, and that's where he was lacking. So he basically disrespected his teammates and coach by not letting them know. So yeah, he's just one of a kind. So for Celtics take, I think that him and Tatum definitely have a friendship, and I'm worried about Tatum and him. And I think Kyrie's been in Tatum's ear the last couple of years since he left Boston, and I'm afraid of that. And I don't know what's to come with him. So I'm really scared about that, and who knows. And I'm afraid that Tatum could be the one leaving at some point. Like, I know we signed him this year to that Supermax extension, but I could see Tatum be another disgruntled star if they don't win. And rest in peace, Kobe Bryant. Tatum cherishes Kobe and believes everything with Kobe, and so does Kyrie. And I think that there will be a point where Tatum will look at ownership in management, and he'll give them an ultimatum, which other stars have been doing. So that's sort of like a Celtics twist on this. This is obviously 4 years down the road. Hopefully it's not anytime sooner. But also, so we'll go over the Harden trade. So the Harden trade was, Brooklyn had to give up 4 first-rounders and 4 pick swaps. And what that means is every other year there'll be a pick swap where whoever has the higher likelihood of a high pick, or whatever the pick lands, Houston will have the option to pick Brooklyn's pick. So it basically goes, I think the draft starts this year in 2021, and I think they have a Milwaukee first. So it's going to be towards the end of the draft. And then Indiana got I believe Indiana, let me look this up. Indiana got hold on, my audio is going down here. So let's figure this out. Alright, we're going to get to the Indiana portion of this trade. So let's take a look. So yes, so Indiana got Karis LeVert and a second round pick. The Cleveland Cavaliers got Jarrett Allen and Taurean Prince. Now, Jarrett Allen played really well against the Celtics. He averages like at least a double-double in each game he plays against the Celtics. Destroys them completely. And the Houston Rockets got a massive haul. They got Victor Oladipo, who's on an expiring deal, who's looking to get some big bucks in free agency this year. They got Dante Exum, who's been a complete bust since he's been taken 5th overall in 2016, the 2015-ish draft. Rodon Kuric, 3 Brooklyn first-rounders, 2022, 2024, 2026. They get the Bucks' first-round pick in 2022 that's unprotected from the Cavaliers. And 4 Brooklyn first-round swaps, 2021, 2023, 2025, and 2027. And the reason for this, the Brooklyn swaps, is because that a team can't trade first-round picks every year. So to make sure that one team, the trading team, has to have a first-round pick, they do a swap. So they're guaranteed a first-round pick. It's just like the higher of the two. So let's see how that works out and how that shakes out. But yeah, that's a pretty massive haul, blockbuster trade in the beginning of the year. I don't really have much to say on it, besides that it's going to be a experiment in Brooklyn with James Harden as the third option to Kyrie Irving and of course Kevin Durant. We'll see how this works out. So enough with that. So the next thing I wanted to get to is the Deshaun Watson news. Now, I read this thing on SI, in which it was written by Jimmy Varentes and Craig Bishop on December 10th. And it was a really cool article on Jack Easterby's rise from character coach or to team chaplain to now making personnel decisions. And it just doesn't make sense. So he basically, we all know that teacher's pet that was in our high school or middle school. This guy was the definition of a teacher's pet. He basically rose up very quickly in the Patriots organization, also the Houston organization, and now he's leading the charge in picking a GM, which he picked Nick Caserio. So now he's going to be the first. He's going to have the last. He's going to have the whatever it's called, the last say in who gets picked in the draft. I'm guessing, and to be a team chaplain in the next 6 years, he gets to be picking players in the draft. It's just wild. So this guy's just like, the Houston Texans organization is just imploding between Deshaun Watson, Andre Johnson, J.J. Watt. It just, they're the Washington football team of a year ago right now. They aren't listening to their star QB. He already wants out, which is understandable. He just signed a 4-year, $156 million extension last offseason, in which it kicks in this year, and it looks like now he will not be playing, so he will sit out if they don't trade him. The fact that they didn't hire a African American GM, in which Deshaun Watson really wanted, and an African American coach. So yeah, he will be on the trading block, and we're going to move on to the next portion of this. It will be the QBs that will be either moved or traded or drafted this year. So one of them all being Deshaun Watson. Now, he is a top 2, 3, 4 QB in the league. For him to be on the move, it's crazy. I believe this offseason will be one of the best off seasons for QB movement, I would say, ever. I had a little Instagram that I saw a couple weeks ago, in which I saved. Let's go to my saved posts. It must have disappeared on me. I don't know, I thought I saved it. But yeah, it looked like a whole star-studded lineup of QBs getting moved. It's going to be Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson, Cam Newton, who else? And a bunch of others. Now, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about is the MLB hiring the GM of the Cubs, Theo Epstein, as someone who consults them on MLB related issues. So now he's going to be working for the MLB rather than the Cubs organization. So now he'll be with MLB. I wonder, has this been in the works for a while? And now, Theo Epstein was the first guy who got hired by the Red Sox and was really like a very analytical guy. He was like a couple of years removed from college, and he had a background in all analytics, and that's the way the game went. And now, him being the guinea pig has gave way to many other GMs with analytical backgrounds. And you have Andrew Friedman with LA, the Dodgers who just won. You have, of course, your Boston Red Sox GM, Chaim Bloom. I believe there's a guy in Pittsburgh who's also analytical. He's basically tearing down that organization and building it back up with the move of Garrett Cole. They just recently got rid of James Harden. So my take on this is that I think baseball realizes there's something wrong with the sport, and they're getting a guy who definitely fixes things in Theo. Now, how much say does he have with Rob Manfred? Who knows? He's there on a consulting basis. And I'm curious, what the next 3 years looks like for baseball. You need to get baseball under 2.5 hours. You need to get a 9-inning game under 2.5 hours. And how they do that, they have to be very creative. And by very creative, Theo will give inside information on how to get this game going back to what it was in the early 2000s, when it was really fun to watch, and I really enjoyed watching it. And now I don't. So, with that being said, I hope they make changes, probably starting in 2022, because I doubt there will be any changes in this year, 2021. And it looks like they will get the season going, 162 games. MLB's come out and said that spring training is going to be a full go, season's going to be a full go, no half season. And I hope to God that there's going to be fans. There'll be a vaccine out, which there is, but vaccine to the public, starting in March and April. So hopefully you get around 100 million people vaccinated by March and April, so that we can all have fans in stands and enjoy our $20 beers and $15 hot dogs. Not worth it. And then we can go to Fenway and watch ourselves the game. That's boring as fuck. So, yeah, I'm curious what MLB does and how Theo influences the decisions made by Manfred, and obviously they have to run by the union, and I'm curious how that goes the next few years, because baseball's they're at a breaking point, a huge breaking point where this can either go, it's already gone south, this can either go as south as Florida, figuratively speaking, or it can go to New Jersey. Now it's probably at South Carolina right now in terms of United States geography. I know that's a weird way of thinking of it, but I believe baseball can get back to baseball that we all love. And we'll see going forward. I'm curious how they do that. They need to enforce the pitch clock. They need to enforce the time in between innings. They need to keep up with the pace of play. So it's not just time in between, but the pace of play as in between pitches, there needs to be not a lot of time. And now that's an issue with the union, because we all know David Price likes to take 50 50 seconds to rub his hands, make sure his hat's on right, make sure his shirt's on tight, whatever the case may be. We all know that, we all know David Price from 2017, 2018. We all know that, but I'm happy. This is the first move, I believe, that baseball has done in which they're really going to address their pace of play, and I'm very optimistic about the things that Theo can consult on. So hopefully this is good for the game, and I hope so, because as I mentioned before, I played baseball and I truly really like it, and it's sad that it's come to this, but it needs to be done. So that's all I have for today. I had to redo this audio because my mic was clipping. So as you can see, I grew a thicker beard and put on a sweatshirt. So this video will go out soon. This will be my first video podcast. Bear with me on this. I'm really learning how to do this. Learning on the fly. I am no expert, so thank you guys. Please subscribe. Please like the video, and yeah, it's Life of Suds, and it's called the SudsPod. Thank you very much.